بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. Tonight, inshallah, we will be talking about the banquet. And date in the class, it is the 20th of Rabi' al-Thani, 1443. And in the Gregorian date, it's the 24th of November, 2021. And inshallah, we will be discussing the part 2 of the banquet, the wills and all of that. Then we'll go to the fara'id, which is the inheritance. So I'll share with you now the slide, which is here. First of all, rulings regarding the executor, which is the testator's deputy, the one who you're going to be making sure that the financial inheritance of yours after your death to take place according to the Sharia and the will of yours to take place. You could take that with along with the solicitor of yours. So first of all, he is the person or persons, more than one, who is appointed by testator to execute the whole inherited money. Accepting it is a rewarding worship. You could pay somebody, and if he doesn't want to do it for free, then he's doing it for the sake of Allah. Then he will be rewarded for that. Now, it's only for the one who has the capacity and honesty. Honesty and capacity, that means he's capable. So if he's not capable, then he may not undertake such a position. He has to be honest. He cannot, because he doesn't want to go and mess about with the inheritance and with the will of the person who is to die. He must be a Muslim. Vice versa, a non-Muslim appointing a Muslim, no problem. But a Muslim, the person who is to be the executor of the Muslim, adult and sane. So this says, therefore, it is permissible for a boy, once he reaches puberty, a woman, doesn't matter it's a male or female, a disabled, helped by a capable person, provided they are sound and fit. So if the deputy of yours is disabled, but he can be helped by a capable person, no problem. A woman, no problem. Person who reaches puberty, no problem. As long as, as I said, Muslim, adult, and sane. It is valid to appoint more than one deputy, executor. In such case, they should manage the bequest collectively. He has full right to accept, resign during the life of the testator or even after his death. This person, this deputy, has the full right to do, I don't want to go ahead. Unless he's being paid money, then he has to return the money to the will or to the estate. If he's appointed with my money and he want to do, just sort of deny or that doesn't know and accept it, and then he has to return the money that is being paid. He has no right to appoint someone else unless he's been authorized by the person who is the testator, the one who's going to die, the one who's making the will. The testator has the right to appoint someone else whenever he wishes. He appointed you today, I don't want you tomorrow. I put another person to be the deputy to make sure that my will run smoothly. I could choose somebody else. The deputy should know what is the bequest and how to distribute it. So the deputy, the executor, he has to know what he should do. What is the inheritance, how much is the money is left by that person, and how much he wants to distribute it regarding the will. The other ones, he has to make sure, for example, that those inheritors will take according to Allah's law. The authority of the executor is limited to what the testator has specified. Unless if he specified something against the Sharia, then he's not to do it. So if, for example, the testator said, I want to give one of my son extra, and he's already an inheritor, one of his sons to give him extra, he should not fulfill such a wish because it goes against the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He cannot give extra to one who is already inheriting by the laws of Allah Azza wa Jal. He could give to somebody else. Now, it is valid for a non-Muslim testator to appoint a Muslim executor, provided that the estate has no unlawful money involved. So you are a Muslim, okay, being chosen as to be a deputy or executor for a non-Muslim, no problem, as long as you're going to be executing something which is to do with halal. So if he's got bars, you can't involve yourself. If he's got robbed money, haram money, you can't involve yourself. Now, so this is the first thing that we're going to be, we have just said, the deputy and the testator. Now we're going to go to some interesting maths here. Okay, the type of diseases that the person, when he dies, either it is non-fatal or it is fatal. What I mean by non-fatal, okay, like for example, the non-chronic disease, headaches, tooth pain, fever, COVID, chronic. So this is called non-chronic disease, and chronic disease, diabetes. Both of those, they are non-fatal. They're not going to, the person who's got diabetes, we don't want to say that he's about to say farewell. So they're called non-fatal disease. The hibah, the disposal, are varied, even if later got to a fatal illness. Meaning that if this person has diabetes, and he's diabetic, and it really escalates later on to a fatal illness, to, for example, a kidney failure, but he was not in a fatal illness. He was a non-fatal illness, the first stage. And he's given a gift, hibah. Hibah means a gift, disposal. Okay? All of these disposals are valid, regardless of how much. Okay? Regardless of how much. But there is rules. We're going to talk about these rules underneath. And these rules, let me just go to them. First of all, you have to be just. So when you give a gift to one of the children, you give the other children the same thing. You give a land to this man, you give the land to the other man. Got a wife, more than one wife, you have to be just for the wives as well. And do not, when you give a gift as well, you don't harm the inheritor. So for example, you got what you're left is 1,000. And straight away you give the 1,000 to somebody who is not an inheritor. You give it to him as a gift. You have actually jeopardized the inheritors. So those who are going to inherit from you, they don't have anything to inherit, especially if they are in need. If they are not in need, no problem. They are well off. But we say always better to give to the relatives. When you give a gift, better to give the relatives, because it will be two rewards. One is a gift. Number two, maintaining the kinship, the relationship. This is called non-fatal illness. These rules also apply onto the atiyah, which is into the fatal illness. Fatal illnesses, if you have a disposal, it's called atiyah. And they are treated similar to the will. So if you are in a disease which is going to end up to your death, so you are dying, you got cancer, they told you you've got 10 days, a month, 2 months to die. Okay, you are in a battle. So anything that you give now is called atiyah. It's not called hibah. It's not a gift. It is given, it's a gift, but it is actually in a fatal illness. You know you're about to die. Dangerous circumstances, like for example, the plane is dipping down. You're giving somebody who doesn't play, take this. I'm going to give you my watch, give you my gold. You're on a ship and the ship is, at the moment, is about to sink. So all the circumstances of fatal illness, okay, those disposals are called atiyah. And they are treated, I wouldn't say as wills, I would say similar to wills. Okay, so maybe we'll change that word to similar to words. Now, to similar to wills. Usually, it will affect the inheritors. The inheritors are going to be, because it's going to be, you're going to be deducting from their inheritance. So if it is the case, it will be taken from his third. So this atiyah, which is at the time of fatal illness, it cannot be like the hibah, anything that you could give. You could give £1,000, okay? And for example, your inheritance or your will or your whole money, your estate is only 2,000. So you gave half. You could give half of it, it's a gift, as long as you don't harm your heirs, the one who's going to inherit you. But in the fatal illness, you can only give within a third. So that's why it's similar to wills. Similar to wills because, as I said, because you have, therefore it will be taken from his third. So I'm going to put this point actually with that point together. So it doesn't really go together. So usually it will affect the inheritors. Therefore, it will be taken from his third. And I'm here saying the fatal illness, like for example, battles, epidemic, dangerous circumstances, plane dipping down, ship, so on and so forth. So we understand now the two differences between the hiba and the atiyah. And as already we studied as well the will previously 2 weeks ago. Okay, so we go now to another slide. The difference between the wills and the atiyah. Because we said atiyah is similar to wills. It's not 100%, but there's a difference. First difference is who is mentioned first. That's the first difference. Secondly, cancellation or alteration, changing. Thirdly, implementation, acceptance, and I shall explain to you. Fourthly, ownership. Those are the four differences can be seen between person giving atiyah within his fatal illness or making a will to take place after his death. First of all, who is mentioned first? In the wasiyah, which is the will, bequest. I think I said banquest before. I was wrong if I said banquest. It's bequest, I mean. No difference between listed first or last. So those people who you've listed in the wasiyah, I want to give A and B and C. Okay. So A and B and C, they will be treated as like one person. There is no difference between if B was mentioned first before A. So if you said in the paper, I want to give A and C and B. No difference if you said A, B, C or C, A, B or A, B, C. No difference. What is the atiyah? It's according to their order in the bequest. So the first one goes to A, if you mention A. And then if you put B, then it's to B. Because it will be taken, remember, from the third. So if the third finished from the A, we don't give B and C. Whereas in the wasiyah, A and B, C treated they are one. So the decrease will be onto all of them. Whereas in the atiyah, the giving, is according to their number, according to their order, how they mentioned. The second difference is the cancellation or alteration. In the bequest, which is the will, one has the right to cancel or alter at any time, since it's applicable only after one's death. This will only take place after your death. So you could really, I just made a will that I'm going to give my cousin such and such and my friend such and such. Before I die, I don't want to give my cousin, or I increase the share of my cousin, or I don't want to give my neighbor. I'm going to increase the share of my neighbor. I could change because this will take place after my death. Whereas the atiyah, he cannot change it. You cannot cancel it after the disposal has been already given, because you're alive now. You're going to give him, but you're giving him in a fatal illness. Remember, you're about to die. So once you give him, it's gone to him. You cannot cancel it. It's been in his hand. And that goes to the ownership. Let me go to the ownership. So the bequest, ownership of bequeathed things is after death. Whereas disposal, ownership is at the time of acceptance before the status death. So as soon as you give A, while you are alive in your fatal illness, that will straight away go to him. You can't change it. You can't just say, bring it back to me. As soon as you give it to him, it's his. Third difference, which is the fourth now, just number 3 here, implementation. The bequest acceptance is valid after death. So whether you accept, I've seen your will, and you're saying that for me, you're going to give me £5,000. Whether I accept it or not, it doesn't beside the point, because it has to be the acceptance what? After the death of that person who's granting me the money. But you could change his mind. The disposal acceptance is valid before death. So as soon as you gave me the 5,000, you said 5,000, I said, accept, that's it, it's mine now. Those are the 4 differences between the atiyah, which is a gift you give during your fatal illness, and the wasiyah, which is that you write a will wasiyah, a bequest that is to be taken place after your death. We're going to give you examples as well, using maths here as well. For example, person is his estate is £600. I'm just making an easy number for you to understand. So he's got £600. That's his money. He's going to leave. He gave a disposal of first person 100, second person 200, third person 200. So first person, let's say, is Ahmad, 100. Second person, Muhammad, 200. Third person is Ismail, 200. In that order. So the question is, how much each would take if he gave it as, number one, hibah. Hibah, which is non-fatal illness. He's alive, healthy. He's got illness like a toothache. It doesn't matter, this is. And how much each would take if he gave it in his fatal illness. He was dying. He's on his deathbed. And is giving now the disposal. How much will take each one? The third question, after his death, that means it is considered to be a wasiyah, will. How much will each one will take? Okay. So number one, if it is non-fatal illness, I am alive, I could give all my money. Doesn't matter. As long as I said, I mean, it will be valid, but if I have harmed my heirs, the one who's going to inherit me, I'm going to be sin. But I could, as soon as I give my £600 to everybody, no problem. So in the first answer for the first one is easy. First will take 100, second will take 200, third one will take 200. That means 500 total, and 100 is left to be taken for burial and all of that, because it's a gift. The second question here, when it is atiyah, okay, atiyah, it means that he's given this to A and B and C, first person, second person, third person, in a fatal illness. He is dying. This plane is plunging down. Death is imminent. How much? First of all, we need to calculate the third. How much is the third of his estate? Is £200, because we said the atiyah is to be treated within the third, like the wasiyah. But the differences, we said, the four differences. So now the third of the 600 is 200. So the maximum can go out as a atiyah is £200. And we said in the atiyah, if you remember before, that the person who is mentioned first, okay, and second and third, the order will take effect. So who is mentioned first in your paper to be given now? Or you have just said to him, now take. If you said first person, Ahmad, come here. Okay, you gave him 100 in your fatal illness. You gave it that second one 200, the third one 200, and then you died. The judge would say, hang on a second, this is wrong, because he's giving it in a fatal illness. It's called atiyah. So they have to take within the £200. First person, how much you took? 100, khalas, 100. Still within the 200. Second, he took what? 200? No, 200 is going to make it 300 now. So we'll give you only 100. We can't give you 200. The third person gets nothing. Do you understand now the difference? So when it is atiyah in his fatal illness, first person already took 100. Second one, even he took 200, we will take 100 back from him, because within the third. Remember, this is a disposal in the time of dying. It's like a wasiyah. But the wasiyah differs now, as I said, of the implementation of it. So after his death, it's a wasiyah. So I said, first person takes up to 100, second person 200, third person took 200, and it's going to be given to them after my death. Okay? Okay, they have to be within the third, so they cannot exceed the 200. But the order of these people, it doesn't matter. They are treated as one. So the ratio of decrease, we're going to go onto all of them. The ratio of decrease. What is the ratio of decrease? The ratio of the decrease is the third of that money, the estate, onto the total that is being given. What is the third of this? 200. What is the total of the money is being given? 500. So it's 200 above 500, which is 2 over 5. That's the ratio of decrease. So this ratio will go onto each one of these figures, onto each one of these people we mentioned. First person will not take 100, he will take 100 multiplied by 2 over 5. That makes it what? 80. Because 200 divided by 5 and makes it 80. Second person will take 2 multiplied by 200 divided by 5, 400 over 5. So we'll go, let me just show you the slides. Second person, sorry, the first person, 40 pounds. I'm sorry. 200 over 5 is 40 pounds. What am I talking about? Yes, 200 over 5 is 40 pounds. Second person is 200 multiplied by 2 over 5, which is equal 80 pounds. The third person, 200 multiplied by 2 over 5 is 80 pounds. If you add 80, okay, if you add here 80 plus 80 plus 40, you're going to get a 200, which is the third. So this is how we've answered. So the first one, they will take what is being given to them, sinned if he harmed inheritors or being unjust to the children. Second question, which is when it is a atiyah, in a fatal illness, they only take within the third of the whole estate, which is 200. So the first person will take 100. The second one take not 200, will take 100. And the third will take 0. In the case when it is a bequest, a will after his death, we will calculate the ratio of decrease. Ratio of decrease, that is a third of the estate, which is a third of 600. That's 200. Over, on top of, or over the total given, which is 100 plus 200 plus 200, which is a 500. That's 2 over 5. You multiply that ratio of decrease to each one of those people we've been mentioned in your will, and they will get that is the number. Right. I'm going to go to another question now. So for you, easier question. Example 2. So now each person calculate how much is hiba and how much is atiyah and how much is wasiyah. Right? And I would see your hands raised up once you get the answer. The ones who had done the course with me, they're not allowed to answer. Okay. Leave the ones who did not do the answer, the inheritance course. Now. Right. Anybody who has just done to me, let's just say, first question, which is in a non-fatal illness. Hiba. How much each will take? Yalla, put your hands up, please. I'm going to ask you if you don't put your hands up. Okay, Ismail.
So everybody would get how much they're getting. So 40, 60, and 100.
40, 60, 100. Well done. Okay, now, second question. Fatal illness. Atiyah. So in his fatal illness, ship is sinking, plane is plunging down, and he's giving now. He said, first person, you take her for 40, and you take a 60, you take 100. How much they should take? Put your finger up, please. Hands up, hands up. Not on a, you click, there's a hand there in your settings. It's hands up. Put your hands up like a question. Yalla, ikhwani. You're disappointing me.
You can go to reactions and raise your hand, brothers and sisters.
Okay, the question is open to everybody, regardless of you've done it or not. Yalla. No. I didn't ask you. You didn't put your hands up. Sorry. I have to choose you. And the first one who's put his hands up is Ahmed. Isn't it Ahmed?
Yeah, Sheikh.
Yeah, Ahmed. Okay, I got Ali Aylesbury. Ali Aylesbury, تفضل يا Ali.
Where's Ali gone?
I don't know. He disappeared. Yalla ya Ali. Yalla ya Ali, unmute yourself, please. Ahmed, make everybody can unmute themselves, please.
Yeah, Sheikh, it would unmute. It's unmuted now. Is it so the first person will get £40, the second person £60, the third person will get 0.
Why did you say that?
Because 1/3 is £100.
Well done.
And then obviously it only goes to in sequence, doesn't it? So first, second, third gets 0.
Well done. So the first one 40, second one 60, 60 plus 40 is 100. So the third person gets nothing. Well done. Right. After his death, now the wasiyah. So he written a wasiyah, and these 3 people are mentioned. How much should each one take? Yalla. I got Ismail Aylesbury. Anybody else? Okay, تفضل يا Ismail.
So it would be 20, 30, and 50.
Why did you say that?
Because you do the 1/3 over the total amount given.
So what is the 1/3?
100.
Yes.
And the total amount given is 200.
200, yes.
So then you do 100 over 200, which is a half.
A half. So the
then
ratio
you
of
multiply
decrease.
them by
A half. Each number replied by a half. So the 40 will be 20, 60 will be 30, and the 100 is 50. So if you add 50 plus 30 plus 20, you're going to get 100. And that's in the second slide. Exactly like Ismail had said. First will be 20, second will be 30, third will be 50. The ratio of decrease is a half. Well done. So this is basically how we treat the wasiyah and the atiyah. And this happened at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet of Allah, basically there were some people, some children, sons, and they came to the Prophet of Allah. They said that our father, he had only his estate is only 6 slaves. Their property, the slaves, money. And before he died, while he's dying, he set them free. So when the Prophet he was informed about this, he insulted the person who had done this. Why did he do this? Why is the person coming to the last moment and he deprives his heirs, he deprives his family from his inheritance? So he called for all these slaves to come back. So these slaves, we've been set free. The judge now said, which is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no, he can't be set free. Because he's been sent into his deathbed, it has to be treated like a will. So only 1/3 can be given. That's it. So what is the 1/3 of 6 slaves? 2 slaves. So he made qur'a between them, like he had basically drew lots between them. And he chosen, 2 from the drawing lots, and he set them free, and he returned 4 to slavery because they're property. They cannot be set free. So it is within the 1/3. And that's the proof for the atiyah, as we said. As the wasiyah, we explained it, and we have gone through it, mashallah, with the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Right, let's go to the following slide. This one I have explained before to you. After death, prioritization, which one takes first? We said funeral procession, including the washing, shrouding, transport, burial, of course, without extravagance. And also, it is regarded as his personal clothes. So personal clothes cannot be used to pay off debt. That's why we start with funeral procession. It has to be how much his funeral cost. If somebody wants to pay it on his behalf, that's something else. But the first money goes from his estate is the funeral procession. Secondly, is the debt. And the debt is divided into 3 categories. First, debt it has to be settled, which is the liabilities to release the assets. So, for example, he's got assets, but they are pawned or something happened to them. So he has to pay money. So, for example, this house has been pawned. It's been taken away until he pays such money. So that money has to take to release that house in order to be sold and to be divided between the heirs. Second debt is Allah's debt, meaning zakah. If he's left, he didn't pay zakah. He made a vow. He did not pay the vow. He said, "Wallah, I'm gonna nazar upon me, nazar upon me. I'm gonna pay £1,000 to such and such place." Kafara, expiation. For example, he had made an oath and he violated the oath, and he has to feed 10 poor people or clothe them, and he did not do so. He died. So the money has to go for this, for expiation. Fidya, the ransom. And this takes place to a person who is, for example, at the time of Hajj, he has to pay a ransom, a fidya. It's not expiation, it's different. The fidya is different from the kafara. Kafara, if you make something a mistake. A ransom to swap something for something. I can't do this, but I have to pay fidya. So a person, for example, he had cut his hair, and he's not allowed to cut his hair during the Hajj or Umrah. He does not pay kafara. He pays fidya, ransom. طيب. The last one, which is people's debts. People's debt, like is in debt to somebody. The last category will take. So all of that debt comes after the funeral procession cost. After that, it goes to the Islamic will. So it comes after debt, as the Prophet ruled for debt to be before the will. And I'm putting here Irwa al-Ghalil. That's Irwa. IR is Irwa al-Ghalil. This is a book of Sheikh al-Albani, rahimahullah. Volume number 6, page 104, where you find the proof for that. Second bullet point, it says it is a donation, whereas the debt is compulsory. That's why debt comes before the will. Because Islamic will, you donate money to other people after your death, but the debt is compulsory. You have to pay it. So compulsory takes precedence. Yes, it is in the Quran. It says it is mentioned in the Quran, chapter number 4, verse number 11, before the debt. Min ba'di wasiyatin aw dayn. Wasiyah comes before the dayn. Before, so the wasiyah, bequest, will, comes before the debt. Why? To emphasize its importance. Not emphasize its important, or importance, I should say here, with the CE. Yeah. To emphasize its importance. Whereas debts are already embedded in the minds of the people to be important. So people, they know that the debt is really serious. So Allah mentioned it before is not to make it as in the order, because the hadith says the order, no. First the debt and then the wasiyah. But the ayah mentions the wasiyah first, as not as to be in that order, but to emphasize its importance. And also, we know that the debt is, everybody takes it serious. Last people category that goes from the estate is the inheritors. Those are the last ones we'll take. So after this prioritization, we're going to go to something to as well see how it's being dealt with. An example, he says, a person died. He left a pawned car. Pawned car means car, which is he owns, but it's being pawned by somebody. And if this car is worth amount of money, and he's in debt to the pawn broker, he has to pay the pawn broker certain money to release that car of his by £5,000. Okay, so the car is either worth 5,000 or more. He vowed, okay, and I'm putting each one with the letters, pawned, PW, pawn broker, vowed the V to give £1,000. He made a will, W here, to bequeath £1,000. Okay, and he is in debt, capital D, by £4,000. His burial, BR, cost £1,000. He had only a son, S. I'm saying how much of the following, what is BR, PW, V, which is the burial, and the pawned, and the V, which is the vow, and the W, which is the will, and the S, which is the son, would receive according to the prioritization if the car is worth. I'm putting the first one, if it's worth 5,000. So we said according to prioritization, number one takes the what? The burial cost. So out of the 5,000, 1,000. Then the second one will go to the debt. You remember? I'm going to go back now here. So the first one, that is the funeral procession. Then after that, the debt. And the first one in the debt, settling the assets, which is like what? Settling the liabilities to release the assets, which is the pawned here. So after this, we say the pawned car will take the 4,000 to release the car in order to get money to the others. And the remaining will take zero now. So we don't pay to the vow, we don't pay to the inheritors, because we have to get the 5,000 first. If it's 7,000, the same thing will go according to this order. Then the vow will take 1,000. If it's not, go to the last one, 15,000. Or let's go to the number 4, 12,000. 12,000, the broker, the burial will take 1,000, which is what is the cost of the burial, 1,000. And the pawn broker will take his 5,000. So we've got the car now, because the worth, alhamdulillah, car was worth 12,000, mashallah. So 5 plus 1 is 6. And then the vow is 1,000. So now we got the 10,000. So we got now 7 out of the 12. And then the debt, go to the debt, privatization, go to the debt. He owns 4,000. So 4,000. So 4,000, 10, that's 11,000. We're left with what? We're left with 3. Now, the wasiyah will take a third. So the wasiyah will take a third of the 3,000, which is 1,000. And the son will take the remaining, which is 2/3 of the, what is it? So 1/3 of the K. Yeah, I said 1/3 of what is left. I shouldn't say 1/3 of a K. It's 1/3 of what is left. 1/3 of 3, which is 1,000. 1/3 of the remaining. Okay. I should say 1/3 of the R. And this is 2/3 of the R. The remaining. So the remaining is, in this case, is 3,000. So 1/3 of the 3,000 is 1,000 for the wasiyah, for the will. Whoever is mentioned in the will there, they will take it. And the son will take the remaining, which is 2/3, and that is equal to 2,000. And then you apply that as well to the 15,000. The wasiyah now, the W will take the full 1,000. Why? Because what is left is more than the third. What is left is more, the third of what is left is more than the wasiyah, so no problem. The wasiyah will take the whole 1,000. By this, alhamdulillah, we came to the finish or the end of the bequest and the wasiyah. We're going to go now straight away to Kitab al-Fara'id, following chapter, and we will go through the book, and then, inshallah, we'll try to help with the issue of the inheritance as much as we can, but I cannot go in full details because it takes a long time. But we will give you an idea about it, inshallah. Tfaddal ya Ismail, read for us, and let me take this off. Tfaddal.
Chapter 12, Inheritance, on page 561. The Arabic word for inheritance, fara'id, plural faridah, comes from a word implying specified or determined amount, as in the verse, فَنِصْفُ مَا فَرَضْتُمْ, then pay half of what you specified. In Islamic law, it refers to the determined proportion that an inheritor receives.
Okay, so fara'id is a plural of faridah, and it's from Allah. You cannot tamper with it. You cannot increase the son's share or the wife's share. It is set by Allah Azza wa Jalla, because you don't know who's closer to you. Allah knows. Now,
warning concerning misappropriating estates.
So misappropriating, that means you are not doing what Allah told you to do. This is a warning for you. Go ahead.
In pre-Islamic times, among the Arabs, only men would inherit and women would not. Furthermore, only older children would inherit and not the younger ones. Islam then came and gave each his due right. This right is termed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. For example, وَصِيَّةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ, a commandment from Allah, and فَرِيضَةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ, ordained by Allah. And after using those terms, then comes a very strong and emphasized warning concerning any kind of violation of Allah's laws.
Can you just mute everybody? Don't allow anybody, please, to unmute themselves. Ahmed.
I've done that, Shaykhana.
Okay, now, fadal.
After using those terms, then comes a very strong and emphasized warning concerning any kind of violation of Allah's laws concerning inheritance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ يُدْخِلْهُ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا وَذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ وَيَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَهُ يُدْخِلْهُ نَارًا خَالِدًا فِيهَا وَلَهُ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. These are the limits set by Allah, and whosoever obeys Allah and His Messenger will be admitted into gardens under which rivers flow in paradise, to abide therein, and that will be the great success. And whosoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger and transgresses His limits, He will cast him into the fire to abide therein, and he shall have a disgraceful torment.
Basically, it is not just at the time of the Arabs. We have these days as well, subhanAllah. People play around with their inheritance. Like, for example, the person, before he dies, he sees, for example, older children, he's younger children, or children from one wife and children from the other wife. And he will start, because he's scared on them and he doesn't know Allah will look after them, he will give some sort of a gift set to one of the children because he's young and the other one is old. That's not correct. If you want to do it you have to do it with the approval of everybody, because they have to have the same thing. If you have given a land to one of them, you have to give the land to each one of them. Unless the children, they say to you, no problem, father, because they are not in need and he's in need. But just because he's small, young, that's not correct. Because those children who are old now, they should look after their younger brother, if the father dies. As I said, some people as well, they twist the arm of the law by doing all sorts of things to run away so they could get more share of the inheritance. Like, for example, you'll find if there's a co-wife, two wives, if the stronger one, she will go to the husband before he dies, and she will pull out a document of divorce to the first one or to the second one, whatever it is. So she will say that she's divorced, and that as soon as he dies, okay, she will not inherit. That's how they do it. So they pull a document, and they will bring somebody on his deathbed, okay, to make a divorce onto her, that she will not inherit. All of that, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, taking place with our Muslim people, and this is haram. طيب, let's now, which is now going to be talking about the prioritization of the will. Fadal.
What is inherited from the wealth of the deceased? When a person dies, the first use for his wealth is to pay for his shroud and burial.
So it's burial costs. That's number one, we said. Number two?
After that, any debts he may still have.
So the burial costs, we explain it. And then the debts, we're giving you how many debts we said? The assets first, and then Allah's debts, then the people debts. Thirdly, then after that?
This will be followed by the distribution of any bequests that may have been made.
Which, I'm going to say, the bequests which he had made. The bequests, which is the will, the wasiyah. Then after that?
As Allah has said, مِن بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصِي بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ. After the payment of legacies, he may have bequeathed or debts.
No, it says, that's not correct. It says after the debt, paying the debt, then the wasiyah, if there is something remained, that's in Arabic, if something remained, this will be divided onto the heirs. Is that, you got that one there?
No,
it's very important. So the first one, read from the beginning, please, when he says number one, which is funeral, shrouds. Number two, please.
After that, any debts he may still have must also be paid.
Yeah, number three.
This will be followed by the distribution of any bequest that he may have made.
Okay. After that, right, if something remained, then it will be divided onto the heirs, inheritors. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, min ba'di wasiyati yusina biha aw dayn. So the heirs will take place after this wasiyah, will, and the debt. And also, Ali radiallahu anhu, he said,
Ali radiallahu anhu said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to settle the debts before fulfilling the bequests.
Okay, so that's alhamdulillah, we know the debt before because remember, the wasiyah, the bequest is a donation. You're giving money, but the debt is compulsory. You have to pay it. So compulsory takes priority. Right. Now we go to why the inheritance. How can they inherit? What are the reasons for inheritance? How can I inherit somebody? Okay, what are the ways to inherit somebody? Fadl.
Causes entitling one to be an heir. The causes entitling one to be an heir are three. Number one, blood relationship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَى بِبَعْضٍ. And blood relations among each other have closer personal ties in the decree of Allah regarding inheritance. Number two, al-wala, clientage. Ibn Umar narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, al-wala is kinship like the kinship of blood. Number three, marriage. Allah has said, وَلَكُمْ نِصْفُ مَا تَرَكَ أَزْوَاجُكُمْ. And that's which your wives leave, your share is a half.
Okay, right. So we want to explain this a bit more. So if I just share with you this document, and you understand a bit more. Right. First, he said, which is the last one he said here, the marriage. I'm going to put it here, number one, marriage, which is the third one mentioned in your book. So he says here, inheritance takes place between the male husband and female wife in the following circumstances. A, valid marriage contract. So if it's an invalid marriage, then there will be no inheritance. It will nullify the inheritance. What are the invalid marriages? Nikahu shigar, badal. I marry your daughter, and as long as you are marrying my own daughter, we swap. That is invalid marriage. Or tahleel, a person who is basically divorced his wife 3 times. He cannot go back to her until she marries somebody else. Because he wants to marry her again, she wants to go back to him again, but she cannot until she marries somebody else. They will make a deal with somebody with this marriage just for the sake of together, and they don't make intercourse, which is haram. They have to make intercourse. And then he will divorce her. Just like a marriage like this, this marriage is invalid marriage. There will be no inheritance because it's been made just to make this wife lawful to this husband. That wife has to marry proper marriage. If that person divorces her or he dies, then she's entitled to go back to her first ex-husband. Lastly, which is the mut'a. Mut'a, the Rafida do it. No shuhud, no wali. Person just goes to a woman, okay, and I'm gonna marry you now. No wali, no shuhud witnesses, and it's like a contract. And okay, I want to marry for 1 day or even half an hour or 1 hour. How much? So it's like prostitution, basically. It's a prostitution. And all of that nikah, there will be no inheritance. Even there's a contract. Even they made between each other contract. There's no going to be inheritance. Also, the marriage between male and husband, in the second circumstances, he says here, regardless of the marriage being consummated or not. So if I got married to somebody with a contract and yet to consummate it, yet to intercourse, but this marriage is valid with shuhud, witnesses, and the guardian, which is the wali. So if one of us die, we will inherit one another. So even before consummation, before the, what we call it, the intercourse. C, during iddah period of the first or second divorce. So if this person divorced his wife, the first divorce, she's got a iddah, waiting, you call it cooling off period. This period depends. If she's menstruating, then 3 menses. If she does not menstruate, then it is 3 months. If she's pregnant, then until she delivers her baby. So this period depends upon the situation of the wife. But this period, if one of them is to die, during the iddah, they will inherit from one another. We call it revocable, reversible, in Arabic, raj'i. Talaq raj'i, divorce, which is raj'i. Raj'i divorce. Now, final point, there will be no inheritance taking place during the iddah period of the third divorce. What is the third divorce? Like, person divorced his wife first, and he got back to her later on. Then he divorced her again, and then he got back to her. It doesn't matter he got back to her within the iddah or after the iddah with a new marriage, still it will, the first divorce, it will count. And the second divorce will count. So he married her again, and then, or he got back to her within the iddah, doesn't matter. He divorced her the third time. That third time is a iddah. And that iddah is, according to most of the scholars, is exactly the same iddah as in 3 menstruations or 3 months. Or if she's pregnant until she gets pregnant. But Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, he says in that particular iddah, if you go back to the iddah when we explained it, he says it's 1 month because this iddah is not cooling off period because there's no cooling off. She can't go back to him. So it is just to check if she's pregnant or not. So if she's pregnant until she drops her baby. During that iddah, if one of them to die, there's no inheritance because it is ba'in, irreversible, irrevocable, cannot be revoked, cannot be reversed. Okay? Irreversible, irrevocable divorce. So there will be no inheritance. Also, the inheritance takes place during the iddah of khulu'. Khulu' is the wife, she's asking the husband to divorce her. And then she will give a compensation to him, which is part of the dowry or all the dowry or something, whatever it is. And then he will accept and he will divorce. It's called khulu'. That khulu', if it's accepted, it will divorce straight away. There will be a iddah, which is 1 month, 1 cycle, okay? Unless she's pregnant, until she drops her baby, until she delivers her baby. But it is 1 month just to make sure that she's not pregnant. And that's why Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he said the iddah of the khulu' is 1 month. It is exactly the same as the iddah of a woman. She's been divorced 3 times. There is no cooling off period. So it's 1 month. As I said, but most of the scholars, they say it's 3 months or 3 menstruation. So during that iddah of the khulu', it is 1 month. If one of them to die, no inheritance takes place. It has to be the revocable, the reversible, the raj'i divorce, first or second. During that iddah period, yes, there will be inheritance taking place. So that's the first cause of inheritance is being explained to you, which is number 3 here. We're going to the second one now. So if I go to the second one, it says here the an-nasab, which is the blood relationship. This blood relationship, it involves those people who are going to be mentioned in the book, inshallah, in a minute. Those are the ones who are inheritors from the men and inheritors from the female. Now my slide here explains how the inheritance takes place. Who are the ones who are eligible to inherit? Meaning eligible to inherit, it doesn't mean necessary that you will inherit. For example, a grandfather, he's eligible, but if the father is present, if a son dies, okay, father will inherit. The grandfather is eligible, but will not inherit because the father is there. You will block him, and so on and so forth. So those are the blood relation, we call it, is divided into three categories. One, which is your origin, that's your father, great-grandfathers, and mothers and great-grandmothers. And furu', the branch, which is the sons. So your branch, who's your branch? Sons of the sons, and also daughters or daughter of the sons. But there is no inheritance between the daughter of the daughter. It's not eligible. Okay, that will be as well explained in the book in a minute with not as much details, but we will give you, inshallah, how to envisage this, who is eligible, who is not eligible. Third category is the hawashi. The hawashi is the uncles, whether they are full uncle, paternal uncle, which is the brother of your father, and the brother, half brother of your father from the father's side. And remember, the paternal uncles, which is the brother of the mother, he will not inherit. No. And also the brother of yours from your mother. So it's called maternal brother. Okay. As for the female hawashi, that's the full sister, paternal sister, maternal sister. Meaning, full sister, she's a sister from your father and your mother, she will inherit. Paternal sister, she's a sister from the father's side, she's eligible. And the maternal sister, which is a sister of yours from the mother's side, she's eligible. But meaning eligible, it doesn't mean that you are inherit. Because if there's a son, a person died as a son, and he's got full sister, paternal sister, maternal sister, all of them have finished, gone. They cannot inherit. The son, kick them out. Because he comes from the higher. He comes from the usul, furu'. Right. So after this, alhamdulillah, explain the blood relationship quickly. As I said, the slide is there, as I said, just explaining details. Then we go to the third one, which is, it says here, al-wala. Al-wala, which is emancipation in English. And this is male emancipation and female emancipation. Here, what is the wala? Prophet Allah said the wala is like the blood relationship. This is the master or the mistress, the male master or the female master, who will inherit from the slave whom they have set free. So let's say I am a master. I set free, let's say Ahmad, he was a slave of mine. Please accept that, Ahmad. Right. So I set him free. Okay. Now, because I set him free, I have a favor upon him. So I become like a blood relationship to him. So Ahmad gets to be a millionaire later on. And he dies before me. And he has nobody to inherit. I will inherit all his money. If he had a son, I will not inherit anything. If he had an uncle, father, grandfather, all of these big guys close to him, I will not inherit anything. But if he had a daughter is not powerful. Son is powerful. So if he has son or daughter, no problem, but as daughter, if it's a daughter, she will inherit half and I will inherit half. I'm not related whatsoever with Ahmad. He's different country, different place. But because I set him free, she will get half. That's her share. She's a shareholder and I will get half. If there's 2 daughters, they'll get 2/3 and I'll get 1/3. 3 daughters, still 2/3. 4 daughters, 100 daughters, 2/3, they will share it and I will get the third on my own. Okay? So that's but the freed slave will not inherit from the master. So Ahmad will never inherit from me. He hasn't got favor upon me. I am the one who set him free. Okay? Then, second bullet point, if the emancipation is dead, the emancipator is dead. Like, for example, I am dead. I am the one who set Ahmad free. I am dead. Still, my son will take over. So if he left a daughter and I was dead, he died then, I died, and then he died. But my son is still alive. My son will still take the half and his daughter will take the half. Of course, if he's got a son, Ahmad, nobody will inherit from the emancipation. So my relatives who are through we call him ABH. The ABH will be explained later on, Aghnit by himself. Those are the ones like the son, like the father of mine, like the son of the son of mine, like the uncle of mine. All of those, they will take over if I'm not there. Third bullet point, if the emancipator was freed slave himself, so I'm a person who is setting free Ahmed, I was already a slave, let's say, to Bilal. Bilal is the first master. He set me free. Okay, so he set me free and I set him free. He will inherit also like me. So if Ahmed dies and he's got money and he's got nobody to inherit him or a daughter, we will share what is, because he set me free because he's got emancipation upon me. So this is only in the, so it says here, then the first emancipator will still inherit from the last freed slave, which is Ahmed, due to emancipation. This is only in the case where the second emancipator had no agnate by himself. But listen, if I'm alive, the Bilal will not take anything. Because I'm closer to him than this one. I will block him. But if I'm not alive and I don't have any sons left or anything like this, then the emancipator, who is the first one, Bilal, who emancipated me, set me free, he will take over and he will substitute. He's like a grandfather, and I'm the father. So if I'm there, the grandfather will not take it. But if I'm here, he will not take anything. If I'm not here, he will take something. Right. Last point, inheritance through relation take precedence over emancipation. Meaning, if there's a son and daughter, they set their father free. Their father was a slave to somebody, and they paid money and set him free. They became the what? The daughter and the son. They became what? Emancipating the father. They are the emancipators. They were setting the father. Let's say the father now, when he set free, he got married to somebody else, and he got another son or daughter. We don't treat this son or daughter, this ones, to be the ones emancipated. No. We treat them as son and daughters, because they will be then blocked. Because we remember, there's a son, emancipated will be gone. So we'll say inheritance through relation takes precedence over emancipation. So the son or the daughter will be treated to the father as a son of a daughter. They will not be treated in this case as emancipators, because they will take over the blood relationship. By this, alhamdulillah, we have finished the wala, the emancipation. And mashallah, tabarakallah. By the way, these are the things with practice becomes easy for you to learn. And I know that there's no emancipation here, but this is part of the inheritance subject and fiqh. طيب. It is 2033. We'll leave the inshallah later on. Or just go through the mawani' al-irth. Well, hang on. This takes a bit of time. Here, you could read them. You could read them, but I can't explain them until next week. It needs explanation. Fadal.
Factors preventing one from inheriting. Number 1, murder. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "The murderer of the deceased does not inherit."
An example of that: if a son kills his father, so the father, if he's to inheritance, the son will be deprived from anything. That son, other sons will take, but his son will not, because he killed him. And of course, the killing has to be for justice, injustice. If he killed him for justice, like the father wants to kill his son is defended himself, and somehow he killed his father. No, he will not be deprived from the inheritance. But as I said, we'll explain that more inshallah next week. Either just the second one.
Number 2, being of a different religion.
Number 3, please. Number 3.
Number 3, slavery.
Slavery. I'll explain that inshallah next week, because it needs more explanation. I've got about a slide or two for that. Bi-idhnillah. Do you have any question regarding what we have heard? Jazakumullah khairan. Aylesbury, you could ask whatever you like. Please, other ones, don't raise up your hands. I'm going to go through the ones who are from Aylesbury. Barakallah fikum. Yalla ikhwani. طيب, non-Aylesbury can raise up their hands. Yalla ya na'na.
Ali from Aylesbury, Sheikh, is here.
Yeah, Ali, تفضل يا Ali.
Sheikh, in our culture, a lot of the time what happens is like if there's children who inherit, the parents will sort of split off, say women or the brothers prior to death, to say this is part of your inheritance, and pay it before death. Is that permissible? And if it's not permissible, if they do that, then whatever estate is left over after death, do I assume that they're also entitled to that as well then?
No. Nobody is allowed to divide his inheritance before he dies. But he's allowed to give gifts to his sons as long as he's just. But the gifts here, we have to be careful. We don't treat them as inheritance. So if we're going to give, for example, let's say a gift of 5,000 to the boy, I give a gift 5,000 to the girls. With respect to some of the scholars, they said you give half. That's incorrect. Because we have the hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anhu, whom his mother, she was adamant, nagging on the father, saying to him, give him something, give him something, give him something, specify him with something. And he had other brothers, but maybe from a different wife. So after 1 year, he decided to go and give him an orchard or maybe a slave. Two narrations here. So he held An-Nu'man on his shoulders and he went to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, Messenger of Allah, I want you to be, and by the way, the wife of his, as soon as he said, okay, I will give him an orchard, she said, okay, just make the Prophet of Allah to be a witness. For two reasons. Number one, that her husband will not change his mind. Number two, to know if it's halal or not. So he went to the Prophet. He said, Messenger of Allah, I'm making you a witness that I have given the son of mine, and he's pointed to a Nu'man who's on his shoulder, as a gift, that is an orchard, a land which got trees and all of that. So Prophet ﷺ, he said, do you have other sons? He said, yes, Messenger of Allah. Did you give them the same? He said, no, Messenger of Allah. He said, I'm not going to be a witness onto dhulm, oppression. Or he's, in another narration, make somebody else to be a witness because it's haram. Another narration, he said, how can you do that? Do you want them to be just to you in their dutifulness? That means their dutifulness being nice to you and hugging you and their love to you. Do you want them to be the same? He said, yes. He said, then they have to be the same in the sharing. And that's a proof. You have to be the same in the sharing. It's not correct to say that the best division is the division of Allah. That's the argument they bring the other side. The best division of Allah is to give the son 5,000 and then the daughter, she gives 2,500, which is half, because Allah has said the share of the male is double the share of the female. But this is after death. This is not before death. This is after death. Then this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. But before death, I have to be just to my daughters and my sons. But is it usually the case that the person, he will give same share to they wouldn't give the same share. So if he wants to give a gift, no problem. So his estate, let's say 1 million. He's given his 2 sons and 2 daughters 100, 100, 100, 100. He's left with what? 600,000 to be divided after his death. No problem. He gave them 100, 100. And his wife is still alive. He gave her as well 200. It doesn't matter. He gave her even 300 more than them, because only one wife. If there's more than one wife, then there has to be just as well between them. So one wife gave her 300,000, and he left to himself in case he's going to be bankrupt and nobody's going to give him money from the children or the wife. He left him with something. No problem about that. But it's the best thing is, as I said, to make it for the Allah Azza wa Jal. If you want to give a gift, yes, you give a gift to everybody. But there is something which is you give it for the need. Like one of your sons, he was having an accident. He admitted to the hospital. And he hasn't got money. Poor. You gave 200,000 to the hospital to cure him. The other children, they're not entitled for 200,000. This is you've given it because it's in need. If other children will go to hospital, you will do the same thing to them. But no other child will come to you. You gave to my brother 200,000 because you want to cure him. Give me 200,000. Well, you're healthy. I can't give you 200,000. Once you get the same thing, I will give you. Same thing with education. The same thing with poverty. All of that. But if you give a gift, it has to be the same to everybody. Best thing is to go to the solicitor. If you have estates and money and all of that, and say to them, I want my share, my money that is behind me, to be divided according to Islamic. And I'm putting such and such as a deputy, executor, to fulfill my will. The will is there, it's signed and everything. But this person is to implement it. The deputy, the executor, as we said, to implement it. So implement it Islamically. According, you say that the madhab al-jumhur, the majority of the scholars, because not all the scholars are the same regarding the inheritance, because some of them, they will give money to the outside next of kin. further away next of kin. Okay, which we call it al-aqarib. Okay, the qurba. So we say that some of them they said, but when there's a son, all of them the same anyway. Son and daughter is the same. It's only when you have no sons and daughters, and then the brothers can inherit along with the grandfathers as well. So there will be just a difference of law wise here. But you could say according to the madhab al-Shafi. And the executive, the deputy, will go to the madhab al-Shafi and divide it. He just go to a scholar or a sheikh and he will divide it for him, and everything will be divided according to Islam. Okay. Wallahu a'lam. Does that answer the question, Ya Ali?
Yes, Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair.
Ubaid, go ahead, brother.
Ubaid, put Aylesbury, please. Otherwise, he knew you because he knows you from before.
Salam, Sheikh. With the Eid of the Khula, why is it 1 month?
You're not Ubaid. Sorry.
Yeah, his son.
His son? Okay, agnate by himself. No problem. Go aheid.
The Eid for the Khula, why is it 1 month?
Because it's not cooling off period. Because as soon as the Khula takes place, she is a stranger. She doesn't stay in the house.
Oh, okay.
She has to be out. Separation straight away. They've got to go back. They have to go back with a new marriage, even within the iddah period. They have to go with a new marriage and new witnesses and the guardian as well, the wali approval, all of that. Party, everything. Now.
Go ahead, sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam tarakat.
Sheikh, I was listening to your class on Kitab al-Tawheed about a group of people who enter Jannah without any reckoning by having ultimate Tawheed. Now, my question is, how can an ordinary Muslim achieve this? Like someone who doesn't have that many good deeds? Or is this for special people?
You mean special people to do what? To enter paradise?
In your class about Kitab al-Tawheed.
Without reckoning, without punishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
How to
I think I explained it. Ahmad, don't you have a class onto this? I'm sure that I did explain this so many times.
I think we might have a clip. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, make a clip on that, which is the 170,000 will enter paradise. Make a clip on that one. It's just like hadith of the Prophet of Allah. And in the hadith, it says who are going to be entered the ones going to enter paradise without reckoning, without punishment. Yani, all of them, they rotate about putting your trust into Allah. You don't cauterize. You do not believe in omens. And you do not as well ask for ruqyah. Those are the things. And plus, you put your trust into Allah. So you don't cauterize. Cauterization, your treatment with fa. Don't do that. Don't ask for that. And that is halal to do, but it will take you outside the full 70,000. Do not ask for ruqyah. It's halal to do, but it will take you outside the 70,000 because you don't have full trust upon Allah. The third one is haram to do, which is believing in omens. And the omens is to do with tawakkul upon Allah. So you are making tawakkul upon the bird. When it flies to the left, you call off the journey. You fly to the right, you say, I'm going to go to the journey. And that's haram. That's shirk. At-tiyaratu shirk. And that's how you get, inshallah, into Jannah without reckoning, without punishment. Now.
Jazakallah khairan. And just to, I just checked, there is a clip called Shortcut to Paradise on our Sheikh's channel, which is the hadith.
Shortcut to Paradise, inshallah. Watch that. There's the details of this. Naam, yalla. After that, yalla Imran.
Sheikh, last week you mentioned, if I heard you correctly, that the Hanafi madhab don't give any money back to the government, basically.
Huh?
So,
sorry, I don't understand that.
Oh, so sorry. In terms of inheritance, if there is any money left over, it goes back to the treasury. You mentioned that last week. But the Hanafi madhab, they don't give it.
I said there's two different schools regarding the inheritance. One which that the money will go to the next of kin, and one will go to the treasurers. Whatever remains goes to the Dhawil Qurba, and one goes to the treasurers.
Yeah, so are we allowed to put the other one on a will? Because obviously I don't want my money going to Boris Johnson, for example. I'd rather my...
Why do you have to say that, Sheikh? Why do you have to say that? Why do you have to mention Boris Johnson? It is not correct to say that. Because Boris Johnson is temporarily anyway. You don't have to say that. Why? Well, okay. You could say that the rest of the money goes to my relatives, next of kin. Yes, no problem. You just say that I want to go to the next of kin. The rest of my money, what remains,
just remaining money left over.
Yeah, goes to the next of kin.
Okay, jazakum.
وجزاكم.
Barakallahu feekum.
We don't want to make politics, ikhwana, here, because you remember that these classes are public. Fadl.
Faisal, please. Oh, sorry. Muhammad Aylesbury, please wait, Faisal. Sorry.
Sheikh, if a parent's given a hibah to one of their kids for something they need, for example, a car, and the other sibling don't need a car, how do they bring reconciliation of justice between that? Would they give
when they get old enough, like the other one who had taken a car, you give them a car.
So they have to wait basically until he gets old enough to give the car to them.
You're going to give a car to a baby?
And what I mean is like say for example they already got a car, so they don't need one. Would they give the monetary value then?
No. You don't. This is like exactly the same thing as a person in the hospital. If they already gave a car, taken a car, you don't give them the money. Khalas, they got a car. You gave that person because he's poor, you gave him a car. If that person got to the same stage and he was poor, you give him a car. But maybe as well, you get poor, you can't give him a car. Okay, so basically you have to do justice as much as you can. But if you gave him for the sake of need, the only time that this person will get it when he's in the same need. Okay? Nah.
Jazakallahu khairan. Okay, Faisal, barakallahu feek.
Sheikh, if I'm praying Asr and halfway through the prayer, I realize I haven't prayed the Dhuhr, can I change my intention?
No, not half. You cannot change. Halfway, but at the beginning, yes. Zuhra.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam barakatuh.
Can I please rephrase my question from yesterday so that I can send the answer to the sister? Can you send messages through Allah to the deceased? For example, please Allah, ask my parents to forgive me. Or
please Allah,
ask my parents who are deceased to forgive me.
How can you do that? How can this happen? A person cannot get somebody to forgive him unless he's alive. Okay, so it's not. Okay. It's like, oh Allah, oh Allah, ask my parents if they want to be alive again or not. This is not correct.
The other part of the question is, please Allah, ask my daughter who passed away as a child, tell her that I love her and give her my salam.
I gave the answer yesterday, Zohra. I gave the answer yesterday. This is really ta'addi fi dua. This is going overboard. Transgression in your dua. It's not correct. What is this? Oh Allah. Allah is not a messenger for you to go and ask him to do something on your behalf. Go and
so if you had a young child who died, what dua can you do for them? What can you say to Allah?
If somebody else's child?
Yeah, but it's a young
child.
Allah,
may Allah make this child is a farad, meaning that he will receive him in paradise. But not to ask the child to be a farad. No, oh Lord, make this child to be a farad. That means it's going to open the gate for me for paradise. That's how we make the dua when somebody child died, you go to the Salat al-Janaza. So you make the following dua. Allahumma aj'alhu faratan li abawayh. Make Allah make him to be a person to precede him in Jannah to his parents. That's how you make the dua. But don't say, oh Lord, ask the child to forgive me. Oh, how can the child forgive you? No.
That was about the parents, but jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah. Barakallahu feekum. خلاص يا اخواني سبحانك اللهم بحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك وجزاكم الله خيرا.